There are verses in the Bible that move mountains, that shatter chains, that silence demons in seconds, but why are they almost never preached in church? Today, we expose the three most powerful verses in the entire universe, verses that Satan has tried to erase from your heart, because he knows that once you understand them, you become unstoppable. What if your breakthrough was hidden in the very verse the enemy doesn't want you to read? Stick with us through to chapter 30, because in the final moments, we'll reveal a hidden pattern in these verses that connects directly to the last day's prophecy. We begin with a question: why would Satan care what Bible verse you read? The answer is simple. Words are weapons. The right word at the right moment becomes a spiritual nuke in the hands of the believer. From Eden, Satan distorted God's words. Did God really say? Genesis 3:1. He hasn't stopped. But what if there are three verses that break the chains of fear, defeat, and doubt, so powerful that even demons tremble when they're declared? The secret strategy of silence. Churches love to quote feel-good verses, but few highlight verses that expose darkness. Why? Because those verses don't build crowds, they build warriors, and Satan would rather you stay entertained than empowered. We're about to dive into verse number 1. But first, you need to know what Satan fears most. The one thing hell cannot fight. It's not religion, it's not ritual, it's revelation. When a believer receives revelation, they're no longer blind. They can no longer be manipulated. That's when the word becomes a sword. And the first of the three verses we're about to explore, it doesn't just speak, it shakes the heavens. Verse number 1, the authority verse, Luke 10:19. Behold, I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy. Nothing shall by any means harm you. Let that sink in. This verse is not about survival, it's about dominion. The moment you speak this verse in faith, you remind the enemy of his defeat. Satan wants you to forget this one because he only has power where you allow fear. Why churches rarely teach it? Because teaching this verse requires responsibility. It means training believers to become spiritual warriors, not just passive pew sitters. Churches avoid it because warfare isn't comfortable. But if you've ever felt under spiritual attack, this verse is your sword. Real-life story, deliverance in the dark. A woman in Brazil possessed by a spirit began to convulse. Ministers tried praying, nothing worked, until one whispered, Luke 10:19. She screamed, collapsed, freed. Not because of theatrics, but because of authority. What's verse number 2? It's the restoration verse Satan prays you'll never discover. Stay tuned. Verse number 1, breakdown. Let's break it word by word. Behold, a divine attention grabber. I have given you, past tense, it's already yours. Authority, legal right to rule, trample, not walk beside, crush, nothing shall harm you. That's divine insurance. Now let's ask, why do believers still live in fear? Because the verse is quoted, but not believed. Spiritual identity theft. Satan's number one tactic is to make you forget who you are. And the fastest way to do that is to hide the verses that reveal your power. The next verse we reveal, verse number 2, is the comeback verse, the one that Satan desperately tries to cover with shame. Verse number 2, the restoration verse, Joel 2:25. I will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten. This verse is for those who feel like they've wasted their life. If you've lost time, hope, dreams, this is your divine refund policy. And Satan hates it. Why? Because it gives hope to the hopeless. Why Satan attacks? This verse restoration means God still has a plan. Satan's goal is permanent despair. If he can't destroy you, he'll try to delay you until you give up. But Joel 2:25 reminds you that no pain is wasted. Joel's prophetic power. Joel didn't just promise restoration, he promised that God will pour out his spirit after restoration. In other words, your past pain qualifies you for a future outpouring. Testimony, a prodigal returns. Meet Michael. He left the church at 18, drugs, violence, prison. But one night in a solitary cell, he read Joel 2:25. Now he leads hundreds to Christ. Satan didn't want him to read that verse because it was the spark that lit revival. Restoration isn't a feeling, it's a fact. Even if you don't feel restored yet, the word is working. Don't wait for feelings. Declare the truth. What could be more powerful than authority and restoration? Coming up next, verse number 3. The verse, Satan cannot stand being quoted out loud. The most dangerous declaration. Verse number 3 isn't just a promise. It's a cosmic declaration of defeat against Satan. And every time it's spoken, something in the spirit realm shifts, but only if you know what it is and how to say it. The identity verse, Galatians 2:20. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. This verse destroys the enemy's final weapon, your old identity. If you no longer live, the old labels can't stick. Shame dies, fear dies, guilt dies. Why Satan fears this verse. Most Satan's power comes from your past, but this verse says that person is dead. I am hidden in Christ. If you believe that, he loses all leverage, living the new life. This verse invites you to exchange your story for his, your weakness for his strength, your sin for his righteousness, your death for his life. That's not religion, that's rebirth. The baptism connection. Romans 6 echoes Galatians 2:20. We were buried with him. We rise with him. It's not symbolism, it's spiritual reality. How this verse kills condemnation. When the devil says you're unworthy, you say, that version of me is dead. When he says you've failed, you say Christ lives in me now. And suddenly he has nothing to work with. Real story, from self-hate to sonship. Sarah struggled with self-harm, but one day a friend wrote Galatians 2:20 on her mirror. She stared at it daily until she believed it. Today she counsels others. That's the power Satan wants silenced. The pattern across all three verses. Now that we've revealed all three verses, you'll notice a hidden pattern. 1. Authority, Luke 10:19. What you have. 2nd, restoration, Joel 2:25. What you'll regain. 3rd, identity, Gal 2:20, who you are. This is spiritual warfare strategy in 3 verses. Why these verses are rarely together? Because together, they form the blueprint for unshakable believers. That's why you've heard them in pieces, but not as a unified weapon. Until now, hidden in plain sight. All 3 verses are accessible, quoted, memorized, posted, but rarely activated because Satan knows quoting isn't the same as believing. Challenge, declare them daily. Let's do this together. Every day for the next 30 days, declare Luke 10:19, Joel 2:25, Galatians 2:20, and watch what happens in your life, home, and mind. How Satan attacks these verses through doubt, through busyness, through distraction. He won't stop you from owning a Bible, but he'll do everything to stop you from living it. Reverse engineering your life. What if your life started looking like the promise of these 3 verses? Free from fear, redeemed from regret, rooted in Christ. That's not fantasy, that's your inheritance. Final testimony, the man who lost everything. James lost his business, his marriage, his son. But a mentor told him, you need 3 verses. He declared them daily. Today he's restored, remarried, and leading others in deliverance. What the church must do now, preach these verses. Teach believers not just to receive, but to declare and walk in them. This is what creates spiritual warriors, not spiritual spectators. Remember, we said there's a hidden pattern. These 3 verses point to the final battle. Authority for the war, restoration for the bride, identity for the return. Satan's trying to delay the church's readiness because a prepared bride invites the return of Christ. Speak these verses every morning. Teach them to your children. Write them on your heart, because the verses Satan hides are the ones that will set you free. Like, share, subscribe, and comment below. Which of these 3 verses hit your heart the most? Because when you share the word, you're spreading the fire.